You want to build a good house in Bloxburg? Well, you're in the right place. I'm going to be showing you some step-by-step tips and tricks for how to build a house in Bloxburg. To first start out, we need to pick some inspiration. I personally get ideas from Google by searching up what type of house I'm looking for, but usually Sims 4 builds are the easiest to rebuild in Bloxburg compared to a normal Google image of a real house. So I picked out two sim houses that I really liked. I liked this pathway leading up to the house and the driveway, and then I like the exterior shape of this house, so I'm going to be doing my best to combine both of those things into Bloxburg. Next up, we need to decide on the size and shape for the Bloxburg house. The exterior is usually the most important part since it determines how big your house will be outside of the look of the house and how spacious the inside of your house will also be, including how many rooms, how many bathrooms, living room, and etc. Step 3 is for anyone who's going to have more than one single floor in their Bloxburg house. Basically, I suggest that you plan out where your stairs are going to go before you start decorating and before you start putting in the floor, because it's much easier to rearrange everything when nothing is done except the walls and just getting an idea of how everything will fit. Just as I decided to do, I changed the wall shape a little bit, moving it back so the stairs would fit better inside. One of the most important tips in building for Bloxburg houses, I would say, is do not make your house into a square. With having a house into a square, it's going to be an absolute pain to decorate because there's so much area you need to cover. Having sharp edges and corners will make it A, more realistic, and B, easier to decorate. Our next step is the roof. My favorite is these 3 roofs, but if you are going for a different style type of house, feel free to use whatever you think suits the best. Usually I press T on my keyboard, so I put these little dots here and have a preview of the roof and spin it around. If it doesn't spin like this roof is and you want it to, you might have to adjust the walls for the house, make it skinnier so that the front will point the way you want it to. This step is totally entirely up to you. I usually overlap my roofs so to either make it more detailed or more realistic, like I am doing right over here. I thought it looked cool, so I kept the roof that way. I suggest that you use more than one type of roof, like I use the gable roof, but I'm also using the slanted roof so that the house can look balanced, but once again, you can use just one type of roof if you really wanted to. When making pathways or driveways leading up to the house, you highly want to avoid making blocky paths with just no curves, no edges, nothing like that, because it doesn't look realistic and it doesn't make the house look 10 times better. Instead, use the trick I am doing now. Press T on your keyboard and play around with these dots in order to make a curvature shape, just as I'm doing for the driveway currently. I then decided to outline the driveway with some rocks and stones and then outline a pathway going up to the front door, just like the image that I have for my inspiration. After adding a pathway and a driveway of your choice, you can then decorate the outside of your house with either some more paths, some fences, and my favorite, some plants. Many people also liked doing the double grass color, but that's usually preference. I usually don't do, but for this house, I decided to try it out. I ended up really liking it. It fit well, so I kept it. Just like the double grass color, this is also personal preference, but for this house, I chose to fence in my house with some fences. Usually a lot of Bloxburg people do this. I don't know why, but it makes it look more fancy. So that is another additional thing that you can add on to have a good house. And now on to coloring. Coloring is very important for Bloxburg houses, especially with textures. So my main tip is do not use one color and one texture. That is like a big no. You want to try to mix up the colors with different shades of that color and or something that complements the color. I'd say maybe 2 or 3 colors, 2 or 3 textures for the exterior of the house. I usually go with 2, but really do your best to include texturing, and if not texturing, 2 colors that complement themselves for the exterior of the house to make it look so much better. Another suggestion I have is to use pillars to outline the outside of your house. Although this is a very small addition to the house, I do think it adds more dimension and it makes it look 10 times better from the outside, even if it's just outlining little corners of the house. So I highly recommend it if you have advanced placement. Next up is windows. So for the windows, I suggest that you do 2 types of windows, not just one, because one would seem over repetitive, if that makes any sense. And I would also change up the shape of the windows, meaning that maybe one window will be a 1x1 and the other one will be like a 3x2 or something like that. You do not want a lot of windows unless that's the point of the house. Natural lighting is awesome in Bloxburg, so I suggest having a good balance of windows for each of your rooms. So for our next step, you're going to want to know what rooms you'll have space for where. So what you're going to want to do is box in some areas inside of the house with walls, thinking what rooms are going to be where, such as the kitchen, the living room, the dining area, some bedrooms, bathrooms, and whatever other room you want in the house. So since I have used the walls to outline the rooms that I think I'll be able to have, I'm going to start by using an example of decorating, where I'm going to be decorating this little corner as a kitchen area. And although the space isn't huge for this type of house, I still made use of it and did as best as possible to include everything you need in a kitchen. And now what you should be doing is going to the rest of the walls and the rooms that you have already built and adding in some furniture so you get an idea of what room is going to be what exactly. Such as I went to the dining room, added 2 tables, so I have an idea when I go back to decorating that this is a dining room, and then I move on to the living room, add some couches, a TV stand and whatnot. Very simple, but I still have an idea of how I want that specific room to look like.
I'll take it to Mars, oh, I'll stick like glue inside your mind. Just watch me breathe.
But there is also another decoration item before you start decorating your house that you should keep in mind. This is a lifesaver if you think your room is really empty. Just use some wall trims on the walls or some rims on top of the ceiling and your house will look 10 times more decorative and then more realistic. And I feel like it adds so much to a bedroom or a room that you won't even believe how it looks until you have it decorated. It looks amazing. And for this last step, you are fully on your own, but I know you're capable of doing it. If you need some ideas to decorate your house, you can always go on Google and get some inspiration pictures or ideas. And there you go. That's how you build your Bloxburg house. If you enjoyed this video, click that subscribe button to be a part of the Pandawana habitat. Also, click that notification bell to be notified when I post. Could you be the first to comment? Panda Girl's out!